Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk Glamour to you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Survivor Oz for another recap of Season 30, Worlds Apart, minus our host Ben Waterworth, who has more important things to do, or the very least things he's being paid better money to do, so I'm here to fill in. Colin Hilding, minus the Australian accent again. I'll keep working on that for the future. But as we have been all season, we are joined by a past contestant to recap what we're at the 9th episode now of Season 30, Worlds Apart. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have this guest on the show today. One of my all-time favorite players. This is a three-time player from Survivor Cook Islands, Survivor Micronesia, Survivor Philippines, and the one man we wish had been there during all those awkward slips and falls to talk back to Jeff Probst. Everybody, welcome to the show, Jonathan Penner.
Yay! Hello, everybody, and welcome back to you, to my life.
To Jonathan Penner's life. And you were here last year, and we're going to do a bit of recapping with you to see how your predictions from San Juan del Sur ended up the last time you were on.
Oh, God, I have no idea. What did I say? Did I do good?
Well, you were on very late in the season, so your predictions are probably going to be pretty solid. I'll just set it up like that. But today we are going to be talking about Worlds Apart. Before we even jump into this episode, since it is your first time on the show this season, why don't you just tell us your overall feelings on Season 30 so far?
Well, I've been enjoying myself a lot. I've gotten to know a couple of the players this season, so I've had the pleasure of watching with Max and Tyler. The first episode, there was a big party out here in California, and I think 25 or 27 of the players were there. I got to meet a lot of them just in a quick handshake, hey, how you doing way. But so that's been a lot of fun. And I think the season's been a good one so far, not a fantastic one, but I guess there are some twists and turns ahead that are going to contribute to what these guys, Tyler and Max, are saying. Like, this is one of the greatest seasons ever, and I guess that's still to come. So I'm hoping that they're not just hyping me, that in fact we've got some badassery ahead of us.
Well, I can say that just today, a couple hours ago, I was reading online that Jeff Probst did announce what the big twist he's been hyping for this season is.
Ooh, I haven't read it. Don't spoil it.
Oh, we don't want to spoil it just yet because some of the other listeners may not want to know. But it is, from what it sounds like, it should be revealed this week, and it's definitely going to live up to the hype from what he's describing. But
awesome.
But as far as this season goes, it sounds like are you almost treated like Survivor royalty among these guys? Was it the first time you met them, or did you meet them beforehand?
Survivor royalty. Well, there are a lot of nations that still have royalty, but they don't mean anything to most of the folks. Survivor royalty? No. You know, it's funny. Yes, some of the players are like, I can't believe I'm talking to you, man. It's so fun. And then after about 30 seconds of, hopefully, me being relatively normal, down-to-earth guy, they forget that I was a guy that they saw on TV on a show that they wanted to be a part of, and I'm just now a guy who's ordering chicken wings and French fries with them. You know, I did know Max a little bit before this season because he had taught a class in Chicago on Survivor, a university-level class, and I'm not sure how we got to be friendly. Must have been over the internet or something. And he invited me to talk or Skype or something with his class, which I was happy to do. And then so we've been friendly since then. And he moved out to California, and we hung out a couple of times, had a meal or something, did some hiking together, and just talked Survivor. And then he was thrilled, obviously, to get finally picked. I know he tried out a couple of times. And he became friendly with Tyler and a few of the other players who he introduced me to. And now we're just friends. It's nice.
Was that something that was even an option for you when Cook Island started? Like, were there Survivor players before your season started or as it was airing that you were able to meet? Or was it something that you had to go through once the whole show was over and done with?
Well, I guess I didn't, the internet and the social media aspect of the game, of all of our lives, really, was very, very different. I mean, this is ancient history now of 8 years ago. Before the Twitter, I guess Facebook hadn't really blown up, if it existed at all. There were some boards. Survivor Sucks was the one that I remember sort of, looking at. And so I would meet some people kind of online in that way. But hanging out with previous survivors, no, I never did it. And the truth is that though I was a fan of the show, I came to the show relatively soon before I played the game. I started on season 13, which is, 8 years ago. I think I'd watched maybe a season or two beforehand on TV. And then once I was picked to play, I caught up on all the previous seasons and sort of binged them on DVD, but I don't think I met a single player of the game before I was out there. I don't think so.
So some of these players are probably considering themselves lucky at this point, especially somebody like Max or Shirin would be another one who are these big fans going into the show. There's been a lot of talk this season about Shirin or her kind of being very open and vocal, even on the show, about how big of a fan she is. Why don't we actually start off talking about Shirin, since the episode kind of started with her. The one thing that I found the most interesting was that her game has obviously adapted, and she took some hits early on and maybe made some wrong moves early, but it was very interesting what she did this week by calling out Mike very diplomatically in front of everybody and saying, if Mike gets to the end, I'm voting for him. What do you think about that as a strategy? Do you think that that's something that could help her? Is it something that maybe people have tried in the past and it's never really worked out?
She probably is feeling pretty vulnerable, or at least is playing that vulnerability card. She needs to ingratiate herself to him. She did so by voting the way that he directed her to vote, voting out Joe. And now she, I hope, sees herself potentially in kind of the catbird seat there. She's in a much more powerful position than she was a couple of weeks ago, and is potentially a real contender in this game, because there's a chance for Mike and Rodney to kind of blow each other out. Carolyn and Tyler are obviously a strong duo. They have an idol, and that's going to come into play. One of those three factors will be blown out of the game before the end, right, by the others. And the question is, can Shirin and Jen potentially work together to kind of emerge up through the middle of these warring factions and emerge as winners or deep in the game players? You've got these kind of non-players, non-threats, Dan, Will, Sierra. Is that her name? Sierra?
Yeah. The question everybody's asked all season.
Yeah, I mean, that girl. You know what I mean? And so these folks are sort of there, and they're being pulled along in the draft of these other players. There's obviously a lot of folks. The editing is being done pretty tightly, so it's unclear exactly how everybody sits and who's really in danger at this point. But I think that Shirin and Jen are potential spoilers and even could emerge as victors. What's going to happen with Tyler and Carolyn, I don't know. They've gotten quiet in the last week or two. Mike is getting a fantastic edit and could certainly emerge as the winner. There's a chance for him to, pull a Mariano, run the table. keeps Will, Sierra, Dan, these guys around him, and if he can play it correctly, eliminate the competition. But, from the hype that the season got, there's certainly a big either twist from the producers, as you're saying, Jeff is, talking about, and we're going to see on Wednesday night's show, or one of the players is just going to start to pull rabbits out of his or her butt and make the show kind of magical. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, there's been definitely numerous setups for that throughout the season. I mean, the one thing that I find very surprising with this cast compared to past ones is that a lot of people seem to be biding their time. I mean, obviously Rodney very early on was talking about how he wanted to get, Mike out. Sierra said the same thing. She was angry with the blue collars. Shirin's been looking to make a move. Tyler, Carolyn. I mean, all these people keep talking about wanting to make a move. And it's interesting how you made that comparison with Mike to Boston Rob, because Mike seems at this point to be the only one who's pretty much spelling out his game for everybody. He's making the moves he wants to make when he wants to make them. But do you think that's the right move at this point when you do see how many people are possibly lining up to go against him? Do you think that he's going to have, more competition than Boston Rob did?
Well, it's an analogy that I made actually before, which is, I don't know if you play cards. There's a great game called Hearts. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know it, the term shoot the moon comes from hearts, and it's like if you have all the powerful cards in your hand and you play them properly, or just a lot of them, enough of them, you can sweep the table. You can win. And at a certain point, it becomes clear to the other players in the card game that's what you're doing, and they all look at each other and says, like, can you stop him? Can you stop him? Because I can't stop him. I don't have the cards anymore. Yeah. So Mike may be playing his hand or revealing his hand or saying he is too soon, if that's really the game he's playing, and it's like, oh shit, the guy's going to try to shoot the moon. Can we put something together to stop him? Now, they may or they may not be able to. He may really have the numbers because he's bought himself, if he plays the idol correctly, he's bought himself at least one vote, through that, even if it costs him the idol to stay alive for a game. You never want to go home with an idol in your pocket. But, I just don't know how the numbers, that's why I say I don't know based on the editing really who is truly aligned with each other and who is going to go to the mat with Mike. I'm assuming it's Dan and Will, and the Will seems to be aligned with Rodney. I'm not sure that's really the case. I just don't know. That's what keeps it interesting, right? It looks like he's got all the cards, but you know what? Not everyone's Boston Rob, and there's a lot of real players with some juice out there that could go up against him and beat him, and that's what we're hoping to see. Not that I'm voting against Mike. Mm-hmm. If he could run the table and beat these guys, it'd be fantastic TV.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I found with the Tribal Council. We're jumping a little bit ahead, but the Tribal Council move he made, why don't we get an opinion on that? Because we were talking on the live episode we did after the Australian airing last week about how he kept that move to himself, or he kept, I guess, the vote to himself, or it could have been, one or the other. And he didn't even really reveal it to his other tribe members. I mean, that's something that I was thinking from a viewer's point of view, that made great TV, where even those in his alliance are like, I think even Tyler said, I have no clue who's going home. I don't even know what's going on here. But is that the type of move that could rub some of these people the wrong way? I mean, if you were out there playing with them, let's say this is Philippines, and somebody on Philippines is making that move, or Cook Islands, if you're on maybe one or two rungs down on that alliance ladder, how do you respond to Mike pretty much keeping it just to himself about the vote?
The trick is going to be for Mike to portray what happened in a light that the others understand, right? He could go back to camp after that tribal and say, oh yeah, we talked about that 2 days ago and I didn't quite know how to play it, but he like he's swinging his dick, okay? Mm-hmm. That's one version, and that's not the way to play it. On the other hand, if he says, look, he showed me this 10 minutes before we left. Remember when we were off in the woods together? And then they, because what happens is they say, 10 minutes to, I think it's called lockdown or something. It's like lockdown. And when you're on lockdown, that means you can't speak. Okay? You can't speak to each other.
Yeah.
Because you're on a beach somewhere, and they've got to get you to the tribal, which is not right there. I mean, on the Philippines, it's a 45-minute boat ride from the beach to the tribal. You're sitting in this stinky little motorboat, and you can't speak to each other. Okay? There's no communication because they don't want you guys strategizing in a place that they can't film. So he would say to them, guys, 2 minutes before we had lockdown, he came up to me, he showed me this thing, and he said, this is the idol, and I want you to not vote for me. And I told him, I got to find out if it's a real idol. And that's what I did, because I didn't believe him, and I'm not going to keep any secrets from you guys. Mm-hmm. That's why I did it publicly. Okay, I'm being completely honest with you guys. What am I supposed to do? He came up to me, he showed me the thing, and I blew him up in front of you all. Okay, that's what I would say to my alliance. At the same time, he's going to be able to say to Joe, I told you that I wouldn't vote, you out if that was a real idol. But I didn't know if it was. I had to find out if it was. So I kept my part of the bargain. You're the one who tried to trick me, Joe. I was prepared to work with you. I would have worked with you, but you were playing fast and loose, and I couldn't stop the tide. So he was playing for Joe's jury vote. Mm-hmm. It was very smart, I thought. I mean, that's my take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because looking back to, say, Cook Islands, another person who really was playing for the jury votes is obviously Yule playing for your vote. So there could potentially be some comparisons there between the way that Mike is playing and the way that Yule's playing. It seems to be a lot more of a social game. Do you think that Mike is relying more on the social aspect? Because he seems to have these people wrapped around his finger at this point.
Well, he's a brilliant social player, obviously. No one doesn't like him. No one's going to sit here and say, oh, that jerk. And at least based on the edit. And, people can talk about the edit, and I got a bad edit and all that. The truth is they edit what they've got.
Yeah.
And if you're acting like an ass, they're going to show you acting like an ass. Not every time. If you make a move that doesn't turn out to bite you in the butt, they may not show it because it's not part of the story. But when they show Rodney being a jerk, it's because, he's kind of jerky, and that's the perception of him. Mike is not being portrayed in that way at all. He's being portrayed as a guy, he voted off Joaquin, whatever, and he pissed Rodney off, but nobody doesn't like Mike. And so he's very much playing a social game. He's not a dominant physical a player or presence out there. He's showing himself to be a hard worker and a very sociable guy. And, they've gone out of their way to show him as a kind of everyman who's a very, very likable a person. It is a social game. Rarely does the most dominant physical player emerge as the winner. It's the guy that can build a cohesive alliance, keep them tight, and take people who wouldn't go far into the game just based on their loyalty to you. Look at what Yule did. Ozzy was going to go home. Candace and I mutinied, but certainly Becky and Sundra, went as deep as they went because they were aligned with Yule. Mm-hmm. They had no. I have nothing against these ladies. They were great, and they deserved to go as far as they went. They went as far as they went as allies of Yule and working with Ozzy. And Yule won the game strictly on his extraordinary gameplay and social skills, no question.
Well, you mentioned how the edits are hard to read this season. I think that's something that one of the strengths of the last two seasons. We saw it in San Juan del Sur too. A lot of these, what are now being considered blindsides by the fans, maybe not necessarily blindsides to those who are at Tribal Council, but the editors are having a lot of fun, I think, in the last two seasons, post-strike, I guess, where they're trying to surprise the audience. They're doing different things. And I'm finding the same thing with the characters, too. Mike was portrayed in the first couple weeks like this idiot who would eat scorpions, and he was blowing up at Rodney and everything, and he seemed like the one who was taking heat. The same thing I'm getting from Jen, it's very hard to read Jen. For my opinion, when I was watching the first half of this season, I thought that Jen was like the narrator for the season. I thought she's getting winners at it. And all of a sudden, it almost seemed to come out of nowhere, this whole thing with her quitting. Now, we saw a lot of back and forth throughout this episode where she's still trying the strategy. Do you think in any way Jen is, do you think it's 100% she just wants to quit, or do you think that she has some game in her and maybe she's playing up on the whole quit thing as a way to set herself up as a GOAT to make it to the end, because it's not like she has a lot of options left?
Well, it's certainly possible. I don't think she's a quitter. I think that she and her friend Haley, obviously were tight. They got kind of pagonged. The numbers didn't go their way. It looked like it was just going to go her and then Joe, and in some ways it has. This is what we're talking about with the editing, and I too got suckered like Hallie. How they vote her out? Well, based on just the numbers at the merge is how they voted her out. So the editors are playing with us to keep it more exciting, as opposed to it's going to be one of these two, and then it's going to be him, and it's going to be him. So for the next 3 episodes, it's kind of boring. They can edit it almost any way they want to, given what people are saying. They can craft stories. They don't need that much for us to fill in the blanks on the stories that they're telling us. That said, I do think that Jen, with Shirin, can now turn around, I assume this is what's going to happen, and realize, holy crap, I could be in the driver's seat here. I could actually be in a powerful position and could push myself pretty far. And as long as you get a second wind and realize, what's the hardest thing out there is that it's not fun. You say, oh my God, I just shot myself, not just in the foot, I shot myself in the head. I mean, when I mutinied, I said, I just blew up my game. I actually was going to go far. I was doing really well, and I really enjoyed the people I was working with. But for various reasons, we can talk about that if you want to, I stepped off the mat, and then I found myself like, they're going to vote me out tonight. I just destroyed my game. I probably cannot win the game at this point. That's no fun. But then you give up, you sort of dig deep and say, okay, let's see how many weeks I can get out of this. How can I hustle to stay alive? And she was depressed. Her friend went down. She said, okay, I can't win the game. It's just a matter of time. That's no fun. But then somebody gives her a little glimmer of hope, and she realizes, holy crap, the situation is in fact different than I thought it was yesterday. And as soon as it gets fun, playing a game is fun,
Yeah.
And it should be fun for her now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring up her teaming up with Shirin. Now, with Shirin, she's another one of those super fans. I kind of want to get an opinion on you, because you said, you saw 1 or 2 seasons going in. You've covered all the bases with the seasons you've been on. I mean, you were on Cook Islands, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but was probably primarily made up of recruited players, not that many diehard fans, if I'm assuming right.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Micronesia, obviously the fan community has this debate about whether or not the fans tribe were truly fans, but still it was people who are familiar with the game, experienced players and fans, and in Philippines, again, right. A lot of diehard fans. What I've noticed this season, and again, it could just be the way the editors are playing with it. Certainly in Max's case, it seemed like they were almost trying to have fun with, let's knock down this guy who thought he was a super fan, the way that he kind of was edited to go out like a bit of a fool. But the super fans that we've seen the last couple seasons, people like Spencer, Cochrane, Shirin, Max, it almost seems like they do have the head game, but their initial strategies are lacking that social awareness. And at least this is what I got off of Shirin and Max early on, is that they weren't really considering, well, are people following me? Are people willing to align with me? But in Shirin's case, she's changed it very quickly. So do you think that these super fans like Shirin or Max or, as we saw with Spencer a couple seasons ago, do you think that there's a disadvantage that they maybe are analyzing the strategic part of the game too much, or are they really quick to think on their feet as well, like we've seen with Shirin, that they can adapt if they are given a second chance?
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to put them all in a personality box together. Mm-hmm. People are fans of the show, which is one thing. The intellectualization and how you play the games, the strategy, the history. Well, there was a situation similar to this when this happened, and this was the right move and this was the wrong move. Certain people have that knowledge, but the simple truth is that the game is really hard. Okay, the game itself is hard, and the world out there living through the experience is really hard. And it affects people in different ways, you know. And being a super fan of the show is a little different than being a super fan of the game, because some folks don't realize, oh crap, that's my character. I was cast because I'm actually kind of a goofy fan. You know, it'd be like if it's a super fan of the rodeo, and here's a guy who just knows everything about the rodeo and the strategy of the rodeo. Well, that's like a character, even a caricature. And you've got to get past that point and realize, oh crap, that's the character that I'm being asked to portray out here. You know, they had Cochran in sweater vests and stuff like this, you know. And I mean, I know Cochran. I've talked to him. He's like, I never wore a sweater vest in my life. But that's or, you know, once I did. But he probably put himself into a certain light, and they certainly cast him, literally, cast him in a certain light. And Max was cast that way too. And I think he may regret or he may not regret that he played that up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make, every day that I'm out here, I'm going to make that count. And you know what? I'm going to get on screen because he's a fan of the actual production of the show and knows, you know what? You take your pants off, they're probably going to blur you out and show you. Mm-hmm. You act this way or that way, you eat scorpions, you're going to be on TV. I tended not to think in that way, you know, but these super fans kind of do. And I think Shirin is not that kind of person, you know. I guess she took off her pants, right? She wanted to walk around butt naked or something for a while. Maybe the two of them talked like, you want to be on TV, take off your pants. Because at this point, there's 20 of us. No one knows anybody's name. They don't know anything about you, but you know what? You're going to be on TV. So even if you get voted out next, you'll have made an impression. Who knows? You know, I don't know what conversations they had. But at this point, she's clearly a very capable, sociable person. She's goofy, but who isn't, you know? And she's figured out, I'm going to side with these young ladies. I'm going to work with Jen, who's also a fan of the show. The two of us can work together, and as long as we can stay alive, we can actually make some moves here, I believe. Dan is not interested in really making moves. Cirie is not interested. Sierra's not interested. Will is not interested. Tyler might be interested. It's hard to tell who's really in charge of the Tyler-Carolyn alliance, you know? They seem to be in kind of lockstep together, and I don't know, and I know Tyler, and I certainly don't ask him, you know, so what happens? You know, at least based on the edit, it's hard to tell who's in charge of that situation there. Rodney is a loose cannon, and maybe that's going to be kind of fun as we go forward, and he's really going to blow up and realize, oh crap, my game is gone. Now what am I going to do? You know, how am I going to either make somebody shoot themselves, or you know, I'm going to go down swinging, or I'm going to take as many of you bastards with me as I can. He's the kind of guy that probably has that kind of attitude if he finds himself in a losing situation, you know.
Well, I was wanting to get your opinion on that as well, because as far as I can tell from however many seasons going back, I don't know if there have been this many people wanting to make a move. You know, we see in Redemption Island when Boston Rob just controlled the whole game, there were a few people talking, you know, like Ashley, about wanting to make a move, but they never really got around to it. But this season, it seems like everybody is just waiting to make that move on Mike. Of all these people like Rodney and Shirin, Sierra, you know, you gave your opinion that you don't think Will would make a move, but who do you think, obviously some type of power shift is probably going to happen within the next week or two. Who do you think is the most likely to make that move?
Well, you know, are they setting us up to believe that Shirin and Jen could actually swing over to work with Rodney for a vote, to blindside Mike? You know, if that's the case, then the two of them with Rodney and potentially Carolyn and Tyler or Will and Sierra, something like that, could go far. And then they would team up on him, and, you know, that's how Shirin and Jen could emerge as winners. You know, that's an interesting move. But I would say, ultimately, that would be Shirin and Jen's move, you know? On the other hand, you know, Carolyn and Tyler pulling something and getting rid of Rodney and going to Will, and it's going to be something. I mean, look, there's only so many combinations, right? There's only so many moves that a person can make, unless it's okay. Well, the person, we're going to be all standing on our leg for a day, and if you fall over, you're out of the game. I mean, I don't know what twists the producers have in store. There's still probably one major gameplay twist, like a mutiny, or like a pull a rock, or we're going to split the tribes up into two different tribes now, and who knows? I mean, I'm spitballing here. I have no idea, but it's not going to be simply straightforward anymore. Mm-hmm. There's going to be at least one more game twist that will shake things up, and so there is luck involved, but there's a lot of strategy, and you need to have a tight two. I guess I don't know who Mike's tight ally is. Is it Dan? I guess so.
I think that's what we've been shown so far, but at the same time, we don't really get a lot on Dan's side backing that up, do we?
No. So yes, I'm hoping there's going to be some big gameplay, but at a certain point, there's going to be 7, and there's going to be 5, and there's going to be 3, and that's the way the game is played, and who gets to emerge at the end. I don't believe Rodney can win. I mean, maybe if he's sitting there somehow with Will and Sierra, he'll win. Yeah, Mike could beat almost anybody that he'd be sitting there with, so they're going to do their damnedest to get him out. I believe that both Jen or Shirin could win against most folks there. They would have a hell of an argument, at least, to say, look where we were, look at how vulnerable we were, look at what kind of incredible gameplay we put together to be here. It could be a very, very interesting tribal if people make moves. And there's only so much time, as you say. A move, if it's going to get made, is probably going to get made in the next week or so, next 3 days of gameplay.
You did allude to earlier about the whole Rodney, Will, Carolyn, Tyler alliance that may not be real, and I was kind of thinking the same thing even when that was set up. We've only really seen Rodney, as far as I could tell, talk about it strongly. We see him talking with Will, and they're kind of nodding and going along with it. But I haven't really gotten the impression from Tyler, Carolyn, or even Will that this is a set thing right now. Do you think that this alliance is actually the real deal at this point, or is this something that we could all of a sudden just get this string of confessionals from Will, Tyler, and Carolyn saying Rodney thinks we're an alliance because he just made that up? Like, it almost seems like it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. One thing that's hard to imagine when you're just watching the show is how hard it is to be with some people, or how hard some people find it to be with other people. Who's more annoying? You always get a confessional like that, and it can really, really be hard. There are folks who simply cannot shut up, or there are folks who simply will not move their ass and do anything, lift a finger, but expect to be fed. Or there are folks who, will ride you all day long because you're not doing enough. These are folks that you would never spend time with outside of being forced to in a quest to win $1 million. That's part of why you earn the $1 million, is because you can deal with all these different people. And at a certain point, things get kind of crazy. People really need to get rid of folks who are out there, just because it's like, this person is driving me insane, and if I have to spend another 2 days with them, I will kill them. So please help me. Vote them out. I know it's not the smartest move, but we have to clear the air of this camp by getting that person out of here. Mm-hmm. And whether that's the smart move or not, that's what people feel they have to do sometimes. And I could imagine Rodney being an absolute lightning rod of just a nightmare to have to be around for some of them.
Rodney's another one of those guys where the edit is almost deceiving for him as well, because we get him on air doing confessionals, talking about his 3 C's, cool, calm, collected, and then we have him blowing up at Mike, doing faces behind Mike, doing impressions of Mike. I mean, he seems to almost be bipolar at times, but I also wonder, because we have had a lot of extra scenes put in this year that we haven't had in many seasons, where it's just random camp life, things where, how are people doing just out there? Mike eating a scorpion, or Jen and Haley doing the surfing, just these random things. So it's hard to tell at this point, at least for me, whether we're seeing this foreshadowing in Rodney's edit where he says he's cool, calm, collected, but eventually he's just going to lose and blow up with somebody. Or maybe these are just these random scenes they're fitting in there where people are arguing. Because I'm assuming on all 3 of your seasons, you probably, or other people probably had arguments, big arguments that didn't even make it to air, right?
You know what? They love an argument, and it rarely doesn't make it to air.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because people are trying their hardest to be nice. They will separate, they'll talk about the weather, they'll talk about their kids at home. They just talk nicey nice. But when somebody's pushed so far that they're throwing stuff or getting crazy, that's great TV, and they will do their damnedest to put it in there. Mm-hmm. There is some you're calling random stuff. It's like, no one had ever figured out how to surf before. So somebody finally figured it out, so that's kind of cool footage. You're right, this season I'm glad to see there's a little bit of life in the camp. They don't have who sleeps with who anymore. They used to. Snoring and, agony as you're trying to get comfortable in a bamboo hut in the rain. They only have 42 to 44 minutes to show this stuff. I think that Rodney is being portrayed, the further you go, the more complex your edit is going to be, right? The more stuff they have to work with. Here's a guy who's obviously got some street smarts. He's a lot of fun in a kind of, let's go and drink and party and get rowdy kind of way. And he's probably an absolutely impossible person most of the time for most people who are not his friends or family. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes ballistic, if he goes absolutely mental, has a meltdown, and shoots himself in the foot. I'm talking socially, and they just decide we've got to get rid of this guy. Mm-hmm. Is he as crazy as a Brandon Hance? Maybe not, but he is the Brandon Hance of this season. He's the Russell Hance,
Yeah.
They've decided, rightly or wrongly, that they need that kind of guy out there. Fans versus favorites, we had a guy who went quite early. I always called him Truck. He was a huge guy.
Joel.
A fireman. Joel. He was that kind of guy. Who could pick you up and throw you across the beach, mm-hmm. If you pissed him off enough. And so they want they want a guy like that, and Rodney is delivering in spades, I think.
If we move on to Joe for a second, another guy that it was pretty clear he was going to go home, that it wasn't anything like Rodney where he was rubbing people the wrong way, but it just seemed like Joe was setting himself up. Whether he had any choice in the matter or not, I'd like to get your opinion, but Joe basically was set up. We've been talking for weeks. The second Joe loses immunity, he's gone. Do you think that there was any other way Joe could have played this? Or the hard part, I guess, is when you're in the pre-merge, you really do have to deliver on those challenges. And if you're strong, you're going to show it. But you need that in order to make the merge with numbers. But then once you get the merge, is there really even an option to fake it? Do you think Joe had any other game to play other than just go out there and destroy these challenges the way he did?
You can. He went in without the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. He was on the wrong side of that kind of just numerical luck. So what do? You don't give it your all. You don't throw a challenge. You just don't win a challenge that you might have been able to win. Would he have gone home sooner? Probably. And he's a competitive guy. It's very hard to not give it your all. It's easy not to win, and it's hard to win, but if you can win, you want to win. You try to win. They cast really competitive people out there. He's one of them. He's a nice guy, but you're out there with a Malcolm. You're out there with an Ozzy. You're out there with a really competitive, athletic person like Joe is. He's going to do his damnedest to win. And, maybe there's a little ego involved. You win 2, you want to win 3, you win 3. Crap, can I win 4? He almost did. I mean, he was in every challenge that he was a part of. He gave it a good fighting chance. And could they have kept him around a little bit longer? Yeah, probably. But then you run the risk. What if he wins them all?
Yeah.
If he loses one, you got to get rid of him. And Ozzy was going to go home. When just before the mutiny happened, Yul and I guess all of us said, we got to get rid of this guy, while we can, because there's a chance he's going to win it all. He's just unstoppable. Now, statistically, that's probably not true, but emotionally, this is a massive, massive threat and needs to go. Besides the fact that he's a gorgeous, charismatic, kind-seeming kid. Joe's a very appealing person.
Well, and we saw even all the way back in episode 1 and 2 how nervous it made a person like Vince, so you have to assume. The funny thing is we didn't get a lot of Joe's personality in the last couple weeks, but clearly based on those first 2 weeks, you see how quickly Jen and Haley gravitated towards him. There was something there. So was he, do you think, the biggest threat of this season? Or let's say you're playing out there, let's remove the whole immunity thing from it. Do you think that Joe was the type of charismatic personality that could have given a Mike a run for his money?
Yeah, I guess so. Again, I don't know what's going on out there in the field. You got a bunch of guys, and you've got one that all the, is this macho stud, and who loses, he's got to go. Mm-hmm. That's just the danger of this kind of game. Survivor is the best all-around player. Winners are rarely complete athletic losers, but they're also rarely the absolute dominant person, because when push comes to shove, you get rid of a Malcolm. Or when push comes to shove, Ozzy didn't have the social game to lock up Adam's vote the way that Yul did to tip the balance in his own favor. Mm-hmm. Whereas Yul I don't think he won any individual immunities, but he was a strong, capable guy. I don't know. It's a hard game to win, man. It's just hard.
Yeah.
And if you're a big enough personality, big enough threat, you're going to put a target on your back, and probably aren't going to emerge the winner. The winner kind of emerges. Rarely do you get, and who knows if it's casting, who knows if it was brilliant gameplay. I don't remember the season well enough to see, but it was clear that Boston Rob was brilliantly running the table, playing his game, and was just sprinting to the finish line. Mm-hmm. He tucked Philip under his arm or put him in front of him like a shield, and just ran forward and was unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. And we saw the opposite last year, where Natalie sort of just came out of nowhere, and she's a lot like, this is why I have a lot of faith that this season could come out of nowhere, because Natalie was biding her time, just like a lot of these people like Rodney and Carolyn and Tyler and Shirin, where we didn't see pretty much anything from her until a couple episodes post-merge. And all of a sudden she comes out of nowhere and she wins the whole thing. So
Well, you let the other players, she lost her sister early. She had a kind of a target on her back, but not really, because nobody took her seriously. Mm-hmm. They've got bigger fish to fry. And that's the thing. You just step back and don't make a mistake and let them all shoot each other. We can't let these two, they're too strong together. We can't let these two. So, weeks and weeks go by, you're building your own alliance, you're building your own strength up, and then, yes, in the end, it's like, oh, crap, you're still here? Wait a minute, you're really smart, you're really strong, and you haven't made any mistakes, and you've got allies, and boom, you emerge, as the winner. Mm-hmm. We've seen it happen, season after season. Not always. Sometimes the winner is just not the loser. Anybody but Russell Hantz, fantastic. I will give it to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who isn't Russell? It's you. Okay. Who didn't make any mistakes? Who didn't piss anybody off? Earl. I think Yul played a brilliant game, but he played such a self-effacing kind of game. And that's a big thing in many cultures, certainly the Korean culture, saving face, how you handle face. He played a self-effacing game and emerged, I think, absolutely deservedly as the winner of the season. Parvati played a brilliant game also, but clearly a social game, a social player. And so this season, I don't know. There's a lot of folks, who are now sitting back. There's two idols that are there. Maybe Mike is playing just too big a game to emerge as the winner. Maybe it is going to be a Shirin, a Jen, a Tyler, a Carolyn.
Well, they've definitely stepped up the editing, and that's what's making it so unpredictable, which is what's making it fun again, too. Just before we move on to the listener questions, there's one other opinion I wanted to get from you, because, and I know somebody will correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but from what I can tell, I don't think that there's any other player who has participated in as many different various formats of tribe divisions as you have, because you've done obviously season where you were on just 2 tribes with Micronesia. You did a 3-tribe season with Philippines. You did a 4-tribe season with Cook Islands. I don't think there's any other player who's played 3 times with 3 different divisions of tribes. Do you like this 3-tribe division? They tried the 4 tribes a couple times. The 2 tribes maybe is almost getting to the point where it's getting too predictable and there's too much loyalty when it merges. Do you think this 3-tribe format's the one that works?
It certainly seems to work, right? It seems to be a pretty good mix of, as you say, if you have 2 tribes, you've got a long time. Even if they split you up into a different 2-tribe situation, you've got a long time to build some serious allegiances.
Yeah.
The 4-tribe was hard. It was very hard, and we didn't stay as 4 for more than 6 days or something before there was a shuffle up. So yeah, it seems to be a situation that works. 20 players is awfully hard. 18 seems to be a very good amount to start with. You can basically tell who's who, and you're together long enough to create. Look, the winners usually, I can't say always, find a serious ally early in the game that you work with all the way through. It's not necessary, but it sure as hell is helpful. It really is to have somebody that Denise and Malcolm, from day 1, day 2, found themselves. Certainly by the time they were losing and were the only folks on that tribe who seemed to have their heads screwed on straight, they were thrown together. Amanda and Parvati in Fans versus Favorites. Amanda was going home. Day 1, she was targeted. She was going to be the first one out. When that didn't happen, the 2 of them were really, really solidly locked together. And that's why I like the Carolyn Tyler situation, and I like the Jen Shirin situation as potentially very, very strong a bond.
I think the other side would be the whole division by social class. I mean, when you were on Cook Islands, it was probably handled differently than the way this season's handled. I think Cook Islands, they went into the season intending to cast, by the Asian race, by the white race, and they cast the show to fit their theme, whereas from what I understand this year, the whole white collar, blue collar, no collar, they cast their, 18 people, and then they said, well, how are we going to divide them? Do you think that this division has worked this time? Do you think it's worked better than it did in Cook Islands?
I don't know what better means. I mean, at the end of the day, somebody's going to emerge the winner. They'll probably have an ally that they met or made, quickly or along the way. And what brings people together? What do you base your allegiance on? Is often emotional. It may be socioeconomic. It may be a father-daughter situation. It may be we went to the same college together. I don't know. Certainly, Joe and Becky's alliance was incredibly strong from the get-go. That was a older brother, younger sister relationship that they both understood and really enjoyed. So. What's a white collar person? Tyler worked at a CAA as an assistant. Is that a white collar job? I guess it is. Will, I don't know what he is. He's a no collar guy because he was a YouTube. He sang to his wife in a parking lot or something. I don't even know.
And it was hidden camera, too. It's not even like he just goes on his own YouTube channel. It's just by fluke he was on a hidden camera thing.
Well, what is his job?
Yeah.
Does he have a job?
I don't know. We only hear the YouTube part, don't we?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, for all I know, he's an assistant at an agency, too. I don't know. They need to come up with something. I mean, trying to convince the world that no collar is actually a phrase worth repeating is, silly to me. Nobody says no collar except when you're talking about Survivor in this particular tribe.
Exactly.
We'll see who's going to emerge. I guess it's an interesting idea. Somebody will read into it, whoever emerges as the winner. Of course, the winner was whatever collar it turns out to have been from. But, I mean... Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we're going to move on to some listener questions here before we get your opinions on the final set of questions. And the first question here, I'm sure, is one you've thought of a million times. So I'm very interested to hear what your opinion would be on this. Lynn Gablin Weber asks, would you do anything differently strategy-wise if you played again?
You got to play them as they lay, Lynn. Would I do anything different? I certainly made a big adjustment between the first and the second game that I played, and I played a much better game the second time, I think. And I was playing a pretty good game the third time. I also made some adjustments. I played well for a while and, made a mistake or two, and you just can't make any mistakes. So the trick is, you got to make a big move, and you can't make any mistakes. So it's hard to win, and I guess I would just try to be kind, respectful, and hope that if I played again, I was playing in a season where I had enough returning players that the fact that I was a returning player, or at that point a 4-time returning player, was not such a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I could just find someone who I could relate to and work well with and talk strategy with. So that's what I would do.
Well,
I guess not really. I think I've been playing pretty well, or as well as I could, and just haven't won yet.
Well, Nate Rosansky is asking about the games you played. He asks, in terms of your gameplay, which season do you think you did the best in, even though you were cut short in Micronesia?
Yeah, I was playing okay in Micronesia. I probably could have put some stuff together. Whether I would have won or not, who knows? Unfortunately, I got injured, but I was in a pretty strong position on that tribe with some of the other players. James, I liked very much. Alexis, I liked very much. Kathy, I was actually working with. Of course, she left the game quickly. Ozzy and I think could have worked well together towards the end of the game. I think I played, because I didn't get injured and went pretty damn far. In Philippines, I played better, but I got very tired in the Philippines. I was really running for my life, and was able to, emerge with my life intact. And then rather than realizing that I needed to align with either Malcolm and Denise or Scoop and Lisa, I really did believe that we were going to, the 6 of us were simply going to work together with Carter, get rid of Abby, and in fact Lisa was going to be the next to go. So I just made some mistakes. I took my eye off the ball. And it's hard to say you wouldn't do that again. Nobody plans to make a mistake. 30 days out there is exhausting, and and I just couldn't keep it up, I guess. I don't know.
That's kind of your legacy, though. I mean, I can't think of many other players, especially ones who have played 2 or 3 times, where they spend almost every game they're in just scrambling. I mean, how you said that was exhausting in Philippines. It must have been exhausting even back in Cook Islands. I mean, you're always
dude, it was
on your
absolutely exhausting. I mean, that's just the truth. I don't make excuses for it, and these are holes that I kind of put myself in or found myself in. But you're absolutely right. I can beat myself up, and certainly have over the past couple of years for making mistakes and not going further in all of my seasons. On the other hand, I can really look back and be kind of proud of the fact that I stayed alive for as long as I did, given what I was kind of dealing with,
Oh.
And so, you just have to accept that you play as best you can. You win some, you lose some. I haven't won yet, and I've done okay. I've had a hell of a lot of fun.
Not to mention, with all that work you had to do on strategy and covering for yourself, you still managed to catch, 19, 20, 21 fish in like a single day?
Yeah, well, they were very stupid fish. They hadn't been fished before, so, they didn't know what to make of me. It got harder and harder. As I got most of the stupid fish, it's like hitting, it's like, what do they say? It's like, shooting fish in a barrel. I was shooting fish in a barrel, and pretty soon all the dumb fish were dead, and it got harder and harder. I couldn't catch that many ever again. But we kept trying, and I fed the tribe for a while. That was one of the most fun parts of playing Survivors, is the surviving part of it, which they don't really show much anymore. They really don't. And it's very tough and very, very fun. Well, very extraordinary, actually.
I have to get you to answer this question for me, because it's something that I've been wondering ever since I watched Cook Islands. I'll just start by saying Cook Islands was one of only 2 times that I gave up on watching Survivor throughout the season. The second you were voted out, I didn't watch the last couple episodes. I just read what happened. I was that disappointed. But I always wondered whether, if you had gone up against Ozzy at the end, you talked about how Mike could spin his final tribal council, how Jen could spin. If you had gone up against, let's say, Ozzy in the final tribal council, do you think you would have made that pitch saying, look how much I was able to do? You want to talk about Ozzy being a provider? Look what I was able to do, and I'm just this screenwriter from Los Angeles.
Yeah, I would have given him a hell of a speech, and I would have been the Russell Hantz at that point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was so despised, certainly by the I2 guys. I mean, think about who was on the jury. I wouldn't have gotten Nate's vote. I wouldn't have gotten Adam's vote. I wouldn't have gotten a Parvati's vote. If I had gotten rid of Yul, I wouldn't have gotten Becky's vote or Sundra's vote. If Yul was up there, the 3 of us together, I don't know how the hell that vote would go down. Who else was on the jury? Candace. Candace might have voted for me. I guess it's possible. I don't know. Who else was on the jury? Brad? Did he make the jury?
Yeah, he did, even though he didn't make the merge.
He was the first member of the jury, right? He probably wouldn't have voted for me because I came right after, he was voted out right after I got to the merge. Jenny would not have voted for. She might have. She would have respected what I did. I would have lost. There's no way. They would have hated me.
Well, here's one question we have from Johnny Acosta, and he's wondering, who's a better Survivor player, Sundra or Sierra? I'm assuming he's referring to this season's Sierra.
Well, you got to let's see how far Sierra goes. If she can make it to the final 4 and she spends more than 4 hours making a fire, then I'd say Sundra. But if she gets blown out before the final 4, then it's Sundra. And I like Sundra very, very much. A lovely lady. I'm sure Sierra is too. But, a strong Survivor player, no.
This next question, I don't know whether to look forward to your answer or be fearful of it. We actually had 2 people ask the same question, both RB and Zachary Chong. I'm just going to start by explaining a little bit to you. There was a big project that we did earlier this year. Myself, Ben, Noah, Kate, and Paul. So 5 of us sat down and we ranked every single Survivor player from the first 29 seasons. So the way that it would go is that we'd each take our turn. We'd start with 440 whatever, and one person puts up, this is who I want to rank last, then the next person goes. We each have the ability to veto a choice. You basically argue back and forth for your case. Does this person belong here?
Sure.
So
how long did it take?
Well, you ranked at number 59. So
terrible. That's not right. No, that's wrong.
Well,
that's wrong.
I'm even more disappointed to say. I'm going to start again by saying, I already said earlier, I stopped watching Cook Islands when you were gone. You're easily in my top 5 favorite Survivor players of all time, but I was unfortunately the one that put you up in 59.
Fool.
Fool.
You would have lost Survivor. You see that? You got a disastrous strategic move on your part.
Well, I think that comes pretty close to answering their question, which is, how do you feel about ranking at 59?
Fucking disastrous. It's a mistake. Clearly. No, wait a second. No, hold on. There are listen. I'm not an egomaniacal guy. I have a healthy ego, but I think that any rational Survivor fan would say that I deserve to be higher than 59th in the ranking of Survivor players. Most Survivor players, if asked to name 60 Survivor players, would not put me at second to last. They just wouldn't. I just would not come up that deep into the list for most people. Is that fair to say?
Well, I do have to say, I mean, it was one that I was dreading, and I think at that point, I'll also say it took us 34 hours to record. Not straight, but on and off over a couple of days, 34 hours to record.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
When this happened, again, it's not even just me saying this right now. Well known to anybody who knows me. There's maybe only a handful of players people say that's one of Colin's favorite players of all time, like Lex Vandenberg, Jonathan Penner. When my wife was in the other room as we're recording this, she's only hearing my side of the conversation, and she hears me, she knows the rules, and she hears me say, I'm putting up Jonathan Penner, number 59. She sticks her face in the door. Her mouth is wide open with a scowl on her face, and she actually says, I have to mute it because she's waiting to say something. She goes, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, she's so disappointed.
Well, why'd you do it? She's right, and I like your wife very much. You and I have a bigger problem, but tell me what, no, I'm teasing. Why did you put me up 59th? What happened?
It had more to do with, like, the average ranking, because I think, what is your highest ranking is what, 7th place? Yeah, and when you look at the players who, I have the list right here, the players who rank just ahead of you, Clay Jordan from Thailand, 2nd place, Trish from Cagayan.
Who?
Clay.
I don't even know. Who are they? No, I'm not even being facetious. I wouldn't know that person if they fell on me today. And it's not like that I'm a better, I don't know who is Clay. What does that mean?
He was the runner-up in Thailand.
I wouldn't know him if he jumped out and said boo.
Again, a lot of these people, there were flaws to their games, but we're at the point where we're coming down to basically only people who had made the top 4, the top 5, and I'm like, Jonathan Penner's still in there.
But that's your mistake. No, wait, you're making a big mistake. No, wait, I'm going to be serious now.
It was definitely a regret.
No, hold on. The mistake that you're making is you are taking out the intangible, which is actually tangible, factor of showmanship or likability or that evanescent something that would make them invite somebody back who had never ranked higher than 7th. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's because and again, this is not about ego, this is just kind of why they asked me back. I still don't know, but somehow I was able to make an impression on the show, be a memorable character, okay? Not a great game player, a pretty good competitor, okay at socializing, kind of pissed a lot of people off, all that stuff. But somehow I made myself into a better-known player than Clay, whatever his name is. Now, yes, he ended up in 2nd place. They never asked him back. They never asked Yul Kwon back. I love Yul. He's a dear friend of mine. And he has always said to me, I wish I'd played more like you, whatever that means, because they asked me back. And I seem to be having a ball out there. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you're just going by the numerics, if those are your metrics of how to score this thing, okay, on paper, yeah, I'm kind of a crappy player. It's true, I am. But yet, in TV, in the terms of Survivor fans, I certainly rank higher than Clay. And somehow, in your ranking system, your 34 hours of obvious drunken insomnia, you missed out on that point. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm just saying, like, the truth is, in the world of Survivor, I probably am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. What do your listeners say? Are you being inundated with comments saying like he's insane or he's correct?
Well, I mean, you could see we have a listing of all the rankings and all the episodes that they put up, and it set like every record we had for most comments, and the amount of downloads was unreal. But there is a lot of people. I mean, obviously nobody's going to agree 100%. The interesting thing is that the argument you made there an argument like that placed when you were put up, guaranteed it would have been vetoed and you would have gone 10, 20 spots higher, because that's what made the ranking so interesting, is that one person just makes a good case and then everybody changes their mind. I will say, though, does it make you feel better that your ranking was 8 spots higher than Ozzy, 10 spots higher than Rupert, and 11 spots higher than Philip Shepard?
Yes, it does make me feel better, but it makes me feel sad that you guys are using as your metric some bizarre a set of dry statistics. You know, Rupert and Ozzy deserve more credit than that. They just do. Philip Shepard, no, I definitely should be higher than him. But no, I don't know. But I couldn't name 58 other survivors anyway, let alone 58 that are more famous or higher ranking than me. I couldn't do it. But that's because I'm not a super fan like you guys.
We're going to do season 2 of our rankings, and it's just going to be Jonathan Penner ranking all of the survivors and pleading the case for him.
You know what, dude? I got other things to do with 34 hours.
Oh, trust me, once we...
You guys are out of your skull.
We thought this was going to be... The original idea was, we're going to record maybe 4 episodes, 2 hours apiece. We'll do it once a week over the course of a month. So we thought this was being 8 to 10 hours over the course of a month. As this was running on and on and on, we're like... We don't know if we'll do this again. We're making plans to do something similar next year, but the first thing is, it's got to be shorter than that, because that was exhausting.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. I don't know. Okay, so you guys are insane and wrong most of the time. And who is your top player? Is it Sandra? Is it
Sandra
Boston Rob? Harvey?
Sandra was 1.
Sandra, yeah.
And I believe Earl was number 2, I think.
What? I mean, this is madness. Earl is not, maybe just in terms of perfect game or something? Is that what you gave him that? The guy has played one time, he won, and he's a lovely, lovely guy, but he's a social game playing kind of not exciting, charismatic guy.
Yeah, I can't even remember, again, it was several months ago, but the interesting thing about the rankings is that most of us came out of it and said if we redid this the next day, it would be completely different for all of us. But the interesting part
you guys got to sleep more. You got to sleep more and drink less. That seems what's going on. Madness.
We'll have you on to do another one of these in the future.
I'm not doing it. No way, because you guys are crazy.
Yeah, just quickly to catch up from last season when you were on episode 11 and 12, your tip to win was Natalie, and she won. You picked Keith as your dark horse, and he went really far. And you picked John to be the next to go, and John was the next to go. So you're
that in and of itself should have pushed my rankings up just for being so smart.
There'll be a redo on that. We're just going to get your opinion on the final set of questions here. So when you come back next year, if you come back next year, we can see how you predict.
Yeah, I'm not sure now because I'm dealing with a bunch of psychos. All right, go ahead.
So at this point, based off of the first 9 episodes, who's your tip to win Worlds Apart?
I'm going to give it to Shirin. I'm going to go out on a crazy limb. I want to see her win. Let's see what happens.
Kathy was on a couple episodes ago, and she had a lot of negative things to say about Shirin. I'd love to hear you guys debate that.
Me and Kathy Slackman?
Yes.
It's just a pot calling a kettle black. What does she have to say about Shirin? What's wrong with Shirin?
There was so much. I mean, it was basically half the podcast her talking about Shirin, and it was an interesting conversation.
Hi, Kathy. Nice to talk to you.
She's listening.
I hope she is. Hi there. I don't know what the hell she'd have to say against Shirin, but I didn't listen. I'm sorry. But hello, Kathy. I hope you're doing well, kid.
So if you had to pick a dark horse outside of Shirin, who do you think is the dark horse to take this season?
Jen.
Okay, that's an interesting pick, but I don't see it as being that unlikely. I mean, she can turn things around if she gets her head back in the game.
Well, that's your pick.
Who do you think's the next to go?
Rodney.
Okay. So you think there's going to be some type of mix-up coming up, or
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
This question, you've kind of alluded to the whole thing with the whole white collar, blue collar, and everything. But if you were to be on a tribe this season, which one do you think they would have cast you on?
No collar.
I would have cast you on the no collar.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, of all the players this season, which player are you most similar to?
Which player? Mike, I guess.
Mike, okay.
You ask your other 4 crazy compatriots which player I'm the most like. They'll tell you Earl. I don't know. They're gonna tell you something ridiculous.
Excited to see how the rest of the season is going to shape up. And as I've seen on IMDb, I don't know if it's true or not. Are you working on a new movie right now?
Yes, The Bye Bye Man. My wife's going to direct a fantastic movie. We have some other projects that I'm not at liberty to divulge right now, but hopefully you will see those on the IMDb soon as well. 2 TV shows, a movie, a Stephen King adaptation I'm working on.
Wow.
Potentially, yep. A movie, yeah. You know what? I got a lot of cool stuff going on right now. It's very, very fun.
And if people aren't following you on Twitter, one thing they should know is that you live tweet almost every episode of Survivor, which by far one of the most interesting, way better than Jeff Probst as far as the tweets go throughout the episode.
Oh, because I can say whatever the hell I want. Exactly. It has to be all political.
So people can follow
you. Survivor Penner. Yeah. That's me.
All right.
Yeah, follow me. That'd be fun. And, it's been a pleasure, man. I love doing your show. And you just got to put me up in the rankings there. Ask your fans. You fans that you're listening, inundate the Survivor Oz mail box and let them know if you agree. I'm not saying one way or another, but tell them if you agree that I am 59th, if I should be the 59th top survivor.
I'm the one who put it up, and I'm going to say it. Hashtag Penner was robbed. Let's get it started.
Penner was robbed. Yeah. I like it.
All right.
Like
Thanks so much for joining us, John.
This was really fun, Colin. I'm sorry Ben wasn't here, but I'm glad because you and I got to hang out and talk.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Colin.
Huge thanks to Jonathan Penner for doing this recap with us this week. It was one that I was looking forward to, and the rankings conversation, we got that question a couple of times, and we knew it would get a good response from him, and it was a blast doing this recap with him. As I said, one of my all-time favorite Survivor players, and hopefully we'll have him back next season. We can catch up with him again and see how his predictions turned out. Ben will be back next week, I'm assuming, if the scheduling all works out, to do a recap for episode 10, which, as I said, if people want to know what the twist is going to be, if you're hearing this before the episode airs, Jeff Probst has actually done an interview where he talks about it, and it won't disappoint. So this week's episode of Survivor, definitely check it out. When you're done checking it out after the Australian airing, there is the Oztopsy that we have as always. Very interesting. We get good conversation in the chat as well. So if you're able to make it there live, join us on Spreecast and join in on the chat. Also, the Amazing Race Oz, we finished recording that. It should be up probably about the same time of this episode, I'm assuming. We're putting a challenge out there this week, so listen to our Amazing Race Amazing Race recap from this past week, and try to take us up on the challenge. We're looking for comments on that, and there could be something very entertaining coming down after this episode airs if we get enough of a reaction from it. Other than that, Ben will be back next week for the recap, and he has told me who he's looking to get lined up, and it's definitely a guest that won't disappoint, hopefully, if they are available to do it. So stay tuned for that. As always, subscribe to us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I don't know if we're on Stitcher or any of the other things like that, but check us out wherever you can find us. And until then, we'll see you next time on The Trades.